Well, welcome everybody. We just started the webinar. Everybody should be now starting to populate into the room. So as that's going on, what I want to encourage everybody to do, as SCORE has expanded this statewide, I used to go through the room and ask everybody what their business was and what they did and what they want to get out of the class. Unfortunately, because it's not in person and it's statewide, we usually have a lot of people in the room, which I've already said we got 17. So we need to go and ask everybody that question. It takes up over a half an hour of our time. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, as you're entering the room, in the chat box, if you can, real quick, my business is landscaping. My business is beauty salon. My business is, software repair. My business is whatever. Are you in business? Yes or no? And then what do you want to get out of the class? So if you start typing that in the chat box, as I'm going through the class, I'll keep peeking in there and taking a look at what you all are doing, what you want to do, and we'll do my best to personalize the content that people are in the room. Okay, so if you can start doing that in the chat, that'd be great. So again, I want to welcome everybody for attending SCORE's Simple Steps 1. So you're starting, or you're starting the business basics, and that's pretty much what we are going to be doing today, is going over the basics. So let me share my screen. Hold on one second. In addition, as I keep talking, there is, for all of you who are not familiar or are familiar with Zoom, on the bottom, if you have a question, hit the raise hand button on the bottom and I'll see it, and then I can make you a panelist. You can ask the question, or we usually do have a class manager, but I am solo today. So you can put your questions in the chat box, or on the bottom of the Zoom, well, all the choices, there actually is also an icon for a Q&A. So you can put it there as well. And if I see it while I'm talking, I will answer your questions, or again, raise your hand. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start from the beginning, and let me just, so I'm looking in the room right now. So we see, okay, when I share my screen, it shrunk the chat box. So a PR firm, someone looking to do an e-commerce. I'm going to write these down on a piece of paper so I can see it. E-commerce, PR firm, e-commerce, 3D printing. Deceased pet business. If I had enough guts to say this to my neighbor, I could have called you last week. My neighbor's dog died and they buried it in the backyard. They could have called somebody. We know that the local, I'm blanking out. Anyway, there's a local place where people bury people that would come to your house and get your dog. And so that's a neat business. Looking for an idea. I'm seeing specializing Greek paraphernalia. Looks like you said, I'm not sure what that is. Paraphernalia. Water and mold restoration. Awesome. All right, chiropractor. Open a new practice. Okay, Cairo. All right. So keep it going. I think a lot of these things, hopefully we talk about, will be similars as far as answer your questions and what you're all trying to do. So here you are at SCORE Startup Basics. For all of you who don't know who SCORE is, I mean, you kind of know a little bit because you're here, but people find us different ways. And also people think we're part of the SBA, but we are not part of the SBA. But the SBA is one of the biggest funders of SCORE and biggest supporters. And a lot of people will go through at the SBA, they'll call them up and they'll say, oh, you ought to talk to SCORE. And that's how you found us. There are SCORE chapters all through the country and all through North Carolina. And these classes now are attended by people all through the state in North Carolina. And SCORE is made up of volunteers. And what we do is we do classes like this and we do one-on-one mentoring. And so in Charlotte alone, there's probably 50 active mentors, and we'll meet with people one-on-one and do mentoring. And for people who are not in Charlotte, there's most likely definitely a SCORE location in your area. So that's what SCORE is. SCORE is made up of volunteers, people who either retired or are in business. And we do this kind of mentoring. And we do want to encourage everybody to get a mentor, and we'll talk about that more throughout this class. As far as my background, I am one of the mentors who is still in business, but I have a lot of time to do this kind of volunteering. And the volunteering for me for SCORE is synergy to my business, because my business, I am actually a financial advisor, but I am not at SCORE to get clients. It is very frowned upon. But I just tell people what I do for a living, because as a fee-based financial advisor who's been doing that for 25 years, a lot of my clients are, people who work at Duke Energy or businesses, but a lot of my clients are business owners. And so for my clients in my own personal practice, they pay me fees, and I do cash flow planning. I help them with corporate structure, working with attorneys, helping them, brainstorm about getting customers and clients, all kinds of planning in their world that revolves to being a business owner. In addition, in my own life, as I worked at a large corporation, I went independent in the early 2000s. I had a business partner that lasted 10 years. We had hired employees. That relationship went south. We got divorced in 07. So I have real life experience of working with partners, of hiring employees, firing employees, going from a sole proprietor to an S corp. So, and also myself, getting clients. How do I get clients? How do I manage a business? How do I manage my own employees? So I also live it all personally as well. So that's my background. All right, perfect. So I want to also thank another main sponsor of SCORE, which is Truist. So I want to thank them as well. See, and I didn't start my watch. I'm going to start a timer for me so I stay on task. All right. I mentioned to you all who SCORE is. So yeah, SCORE does these seminars and workshops. If you go on right down here, this is a great resource to find all other classes that SCORE Charlotte is putting on. In addition, you also can contact through this portal SCORE and get yourself mentoring, no cost. People like myself who will work with you on an ongoing basis, one-on-one, with anything it is that you want to talk about or that you want to work through. And if that mentor doesn't have all the answers, we all work together and we can ask other mentors, hey, do you have any clients that do this or that? Or have you experienced this? I have one of my SCORE clients who needs help in this area. So I want to encourage everybody here today to get themselves a mentor as well. All right. We mentioned all the other areas where our SCORE offices, and here's a list of the ones that are in North Carolina. Okay. So today's class, a lot of questions we get when I do this work, even one-on-one in classes, is, Keith, how do I do a business plan? How do I write a business plan? Or what should my business plan be? So really, what this class is going to talk about all the areas of I'm going to call it your business plan is really how do you operate and run the business and what are you supposed to be doing? Okay. So today, we're giving you all those key parts to start building that out. So today we are right here, the basics. So we are going to cover at a broader level all of these things, right? What is your business, the concept? How are you going to get clients? What are your financials? And then if you need funding, or how do you get to finance it? Those are all things we're going to talk about in this session. on the SCORE website, we used to have individual classes done by mentors for sessions 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are now online through that SCORE website. Okay. So today we're going to talk about them all. And then sessions 2, 3, 4, and 5, if you did those, you're now going into the details of all these things, which is in a sense doing and creating your business plan. All right. I hope that makes sense. Let me see if I have any questions. It's kind of hard for me to see in this chat. This is where I wish I had my assistant help me today. Someone says they can't hear anything. Are you all hearing me? Stephanie, put your thumb up or thumb down if you hear me. Okay, perfect. Just making sure. All right, I see someone's got a question. All right, so Vera, I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We hear you now.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I actually went to the library. I moved down from New Jersey to Charlotte. I was looking to start a business, but I do not have idea. And they told me about this program. I don't know if I'm in the right place, if I don't have idea yet, if I can find a mentor. I just want to know if I'm in the right place, if I do not have idea yet, but want to start a business. That's my question.
Oh no. Okay. Great question. What I heard you say is if you don't have an idea, if you don't have an idea yet, should you be here? And my answer is going to be, of course, yes. Because as you're thinking of an idea, you're going to learn today all the things involved in starting, running, and then operating a business and what you're getting and what it's going to look like. So yeah, I believe that is valuable for you to know what to expect. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. All right. So yeah, click on that hand again to take away the hand so I don't see it anymore. That'd be helpful, Vera, if you can.
Okay.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. So we move on to the next slide. All right. So are you ready? What you learned today, we'll talk about myths and realities, critical factors. What are your options to starting a business? So again, Vera, that will be helpful for especially for people, for you and people that are in that same space. What are the components of owning a business? How do you make it legal? Business plan basics. I kind of already started it. At the end, there'll be a self-assessment, and then we'll talk about next steps. Okay. So what are some of the myths about owning a business? And here are some of those myths, and kind of start building your expectations to kind of give an idea of the realities or not realities of being a business owner. One of them is you won't have to work hard or put in long hours. So again, some people believe that. You might build to the point where you can be at the point where you're working less hours and have to work very hard. But even some people have been in the business for 20 years and are still working a lot of hours. So it depends on your business per se, but especially in the beginning, you will have to work hard and in some cases build a lot of hours. If anything, your challenge is going to be managing your schedule so the personal and the business don't kind of overlap, and then you know don't spend time with your wife or your husband or your significant other or your kids, or you're not working out or you're doing nothing else, and then your health can deteriorate. So more so, it's going to be managing your time will be the challenge, but you will be working hard for sure. Another myth is that your product is unique. It isn't. Now, yes, every once in a while, someone has a unique product that is so different than the competition. But majority of the time, you know, again, in the beginning, you know, e-commerce, PR firm. I mean, 3D printing is unique. Not as unique as it was maybe years ago, but it's not widespread yet. So I would maybe give that one unique, a little bit on the unique slide. Chiropractor. So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, there's lots of competition in whatever it is that you're doing for the most part. And the challenge again will be is how do you operate? What do you implement? and then, who does it better in getting customers, getting clients, and serving people, and operating and managing their business so they can be profitable and successful. That's the key component there. Um, Myth number three is that as a business owner, you can deduct everything and won't have to pay taxes. That is not true at all. Yes, you can deduct things, but you still want to be profitable, and you will be paying taxes on that profit. And then sometimes you can be paying different taxes, or not sometimes, a lot of times you're paying different taxes that you wouldn't be paying if you were an employee somewhere. So you also have payroll taxes, unemployment taxes, and all other kind of, you'll be paying taxes is the point. Okay. So that is a myth as well that you're not. Myth number four is that you're going to be your own boss. Yes, in many ways you are your own boss. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit later on in the discussion, but you're also going to have a lot of other people. It depends on your business. There's always going to be people who still control how you operate, I guess, or you have to maybe answer to, or you can't do things what you want because of a vendor or a supplier or something else. So in your world, you do have a lot more freedom and flexibility. So you are technically your own boss, but depending on your business, you're not always, completely autonomous to do what you want and as you want to do it. Okay. Which applies to myth number five, is that you can do whatever you want. And again, that's not necessarily true. You have more autonomy, more freedom. You can't always do what you want and how you want it. And sometimes due to government regulations, government rules. Sometimes it's due to a franchise that you're in. And in my business as a financial advisor, when I was at certain firms or broker dealers, I wasn't as free to do what I wanted to do. And I got more freedom when I went independent. But I'm still regulated by the state, but I had more freedom in that way. So that's kind of some of the myths and realities. Hopefully that gives you all some perspectives on things. Okay. So the realities. Oh, okay. See, I got a question. So a rental, I have just allowed you to speak. So go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I have a question. I was interested in starting the e-commerce, but also wanted to learn a little bit more about investing. Do you guys do like investing strategies as well through your entrepreneurship teaching?
You mean like investing in your business or investing in, say, like an IRA or a 401k or a retirement plan or something like that? Or just
Or stocks and bonds, mutual funds, different teachings on like investing into the markets. Do you guys do any specific classes teaching on investment as well?
if I heard you correctly, as far as investments, like tips or like, no, like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cash. As far as I know, SCORE does not do any, I would call that investor education. What we will tell you to do in this presentation is to build your team. Okay. So your team will be this again, this applies to everybody, right? You want an accountant, a good, are you going to, depend on your business structure. Do you need a good bookkeeper? Now, bookkeeper and accountant can be the same person, right? Our relationship with a bank, maybe, attorneys, property and casualty, right? For commercial or property insurance. And then, yes, an advisor or investment advisor would be another person that you want to have on your team, that you want to find someone that like, and trust that can answer that kind of stuff for you, and then integrate it with your business, right? So, like, hey, Keith, I want to put money in an IRA. Then a good advisor, well, wait a minute, let's look at your business cash flow or your personal cash flow, and they would integrate it into your overall planning. But I hope that helps you with that question. SCORE does not do it specifically,
Yes.
but that would be someone you want as part of your team. As a business owner, is how do you maximize all your revenue? And then when you want to employ some of that excess, or like I have clients that are business owners. Yes, we take money from the business and have accounts owned by the business that are very safe to build reserves for some up and downs. And then also we have other accounts that is over reserves for growth, and then other accounts for retirement. So yes, that is something that someone can work with you with. That is part of this whole discussion. Does that make sense? And that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for explaining that.
All right, cool. You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you for asking. So the reality is, why are you all here? I think you all know these numbers, or you don't know these numbers. We hear it all the time. The success and failure rate for people in business that start up businesses, after the first 2 years, most people are still going and operating. But you add 3 years to that, and most people are out of half people who start are out of business, right? Which makes sense. The longer you go on, if you're not operating well, or I had someone, this is a score client the other day, he's been in business for a while, but I kept hearing, I'm struggling. And sometimes it's because that's why people are in business, but they're not making money, or they're struggling, or they think they're struggling. And then I said, what is your, then we went to financials, and getting back to the person as a startup, he didn't have financials. He didn't do the cash flow planning part of his business, writing down expenses, writing down money going out, and he wasn't tracking that. So I couldn't answer him yet. So now that's what we're working on together. Okay. But if you're not doing all these things, you will go from, maybe kicking along to eventually going out of business. And then so forth. So hopefully that helps kind of, and because you're here and doing this work, you're increasing the probability of your success. So what are some of the critical factors that you need to have in order to be successful as a business owner? Obviously, you wouldn't be here if you didn't think you had these factors. But like anything, you need to be honest with yourself. So, take introspect and ask yourself, do you have experience and education in the field that you're going into? And if not, do you have a person or an employee or someone that you can partner with that does? Number 2, do you have a strong work ethic? Right? If you're someone who's back to the myths that thought, hey, I'm going to own a business, I can work less, and you don't have a strong work ethic, well, then you're probably not going to be successful, right? Because you need to have a strong work ethic. Number 3, are you good at time management? Right? Like I said before, it's going to be the opposite. You are going to be very busy. So how well are you at managing time in your business, time in your personal? That's a very important skill. How do you manage tasks? Are you willing to ask for advice from others? And then do you have adequate capital? And we'll talk about that when we do cash flow discussion. Okay?
Okay.
Here we are, cash flow discussion. Now, to me, again, I always jokingly talk about my own biases when they come up, right? So because I'm a financial guy, I'm a numbers guy. I call this my bias, but it is a reality. The cash flow part is a very critical part of your plan. And as I do my famous jumping around this presentation about all the things you need to be doing, there's 2, to me, critical things that have to be done to be successful in a business. Number 1, sales, right? We'll get to that in a little bit down the road, right? How are you getting customers? How are you getting clients? What do your sales look like? And then me, where I bring a jokingly my personal bias, is your financials, right? Are you paying attention to the money flowing in and the money flowing out? If you're a startup, do you know, right? So, getting back to planning, even if you're struggling or if you're doing really, really well, I have clients that are doing really, really well, and the way they grow is through the cash flow planning, right? Which is, Keith, I want to hire another plumber, right? How's it going to impact? What's it going to look like? And now we can open up the plan, right? I'm a visual person. Well, I don't have time to do that. I was going to show you what it looks like. Just get back to this. I don't have time to go there. But I was able to add on there in their plan. We had cash flow going out. We go out 24 months. We have all their expenses, which we know because we've been tracking them. And I get them from the other places. But then all I got to do now is in the line, add the truck cost. And then we know when you add an employee, these are your payroll costs. This is your salary. These are the benefit costs. And then we can filter it all the way out through their cash flow, how it impacts the plan, right? And we know they have certain months of their source. So again, all this stuff you have to start writing down if you're a startup, or if you haven't, if you're in business and haven't written it down, what are all your upfront costs and then ongoing costs, right? God, I wish I had more of the businesses down here. So chiropractor practice, I don't know, like the PR firm or the e-commerce, right? Up front, I gotta buy a server, or I gotta buy this equipment, and then ongoing, I've got all these expenses and all that, and then that's your cash flow plan. And eventually, you have a snapshot of what you expect to earn every year, and then you kind of do all kinds of planning, and then on top of it, someone like me, if you're a startup, depending on your business, I give an example a lot of a client who I have, and she rented a booth at a salon and doing hair and nails, and how much do I charge? All this stuff. And so we came back, did the cash flow plan, knew how much you needed for a personal house, how much we had to get out of the business for that. We had it all written down, and then we figured out how much revenue we need to produce to meet all those numbers, and then back to how much you're going to charge and how many customers can you see per day and per week. And based on charging, we figured out the revenue, which went into the top of the cash flow to see how it did. And then we were able to, down the bottom, play with the numbers of how much we're going to charge and how many people, right? And that was cash flow planning. And then back to sales and marketing. Okay, can you get 25 customers a week? And how you going to do it? All right. I hope this all makes sense. I was talking to Stephanie earlier. I can't see people's faces doing this. So hopefully this is making sense. And I see someone's got a question, so I will. Mirna, go ahead, ask a question.
Thank you. And just call me Cooper. I have 2 questions. I promise I'll be quick. Is it possible that you could send us the cash flow template that you just described as a follow-up to this webinar?
Yeah, okay. So there is one on the SCORE website.
Okay.
If you, all right, the one I was going to show you was the one that I use for my, like I say, clients and my business clients. If I gave you mine and you didn't know Excel, like the formulas aren't perfect, it's not clean, but if you wanted to, I'll put my email in the chat if you want to shoot me an email, and then I can give you my own personal template. And then, if you want any help offline, I can kind of show you how I use mine.
That's perfect. And then the last question, when you mute me, can you also mute the last person that had a question, because there's a lot of background noise. It's hard to hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. Keith.
Thank you.
Volunteer.org. Okay, there's my email. I put it in the chat. And let me mute. And then, oh, I got another question. And Mandy, go ahead.
I apologize. I don't even have a question. I was clicking around.
Oh, no worries. All right, so here's some other things you need to, again, financial considerations. I kind of, in my style, a lot when I talk, I'm actually covering slides coming up, and I tie it all together. This is talking about the personal, right? So, a lot of times what help people in business getting back to, well, what is the minimum you need out of this business net after taxes to go to the personal to cover your bills, right? So, that's what this is talking about. So start writing it all down. And then again, back to the business, depending on where you are, how soon can you build the revenue, or you're already there with the revenue to pull that amount of money out, right? And then if you're a dual income house, you know, again, maybe your spouse's income can cover that minimum need, and you can look at areas you can cut back while you're ramping up your business. So, you know, don't ignore the personal side of it, which is a critical component of the cash flow planning part as well. So what about funding the business? Oh, okay. All right, I got another question. All right. Orenthal, I think. Go ahead.
Along with the business, how do you know, do you guys go over like information as far as like, how do you know when to grow or expand your business? Because I think I heard you mention something similar to that as far as like hiring, you know, do you guys go into great detail as far as like how to know like at what point to expand your business and how to?
Okay, I'm gonna answer that, and then I'm gonna answer it. I'm gonna answer it from the score perspective, meaning does score have a class like that? Not specifically that I'm aware of. Okay.
Mhm.
The way I would answer that is that answer might be different for lots of different people based on the type of business, their business, and who they are personally. Right. So you could have two landscaping businesses, and that answer can be completely different to each of those people because they're just different operators and different stages, or, you know, one's really good at getting customers and one's not. One gets commercial contracts, one gets smaller contracts. So really, to me, that is back to your ongoing building your team of professionals and having command of your cash flow. Because, you know, again, I don't just have to have a client where she was a speech pathologist in a single office and wanted to expand, and we did it through cash flow planning, right? How much you know, I know if that answers your question. I'm going off on a tangent there, but that's how I always do it, right? When I want to buy a truck, can I afford it? Keith, I want more revenue. Now, I had another client that wanted more revenue. She wanted to double her revenue, and she worked like a dog the year before. I'm like, well, to double your revenue, if you do the same thing, you have to work double dog. Or can you look at maybe approaching different people, right? So that was even expanding, and as far as buying, that was maybe figuring out a different way that they can get different types of contracts, right? So, or deals. So I don't know if to answer your question, but that's how I do it. That's how I would tell you to do it, is your own personal, how your business is going when you can afford to do it and plan to do it. That's when you do it. That makes sense. And if you want to do it, does that make sense?
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thank you. Great question though. Because sometimes people don't want to grow. Like if you asked me, I don't want to grow. Like I'm very happy being a 3-patch person shop. I might hire 1 or 2 people, but I'm still blown away by people that have, you know, 10 plus employees or 20 plus employees. I think so. But again, I'm going to repeat myself. You do it by integrating into your cash flow or your P&Ls and seeing how it's going to affect the business and if you can afford to do it. Kind
Okay.
of, and if it's going to be profitable. Perfect. Good. So how do you get funding to start it or ongoing? Obviously, personal savings, family and friends, which of course can be risky. You know, number 3 is very common. A lot of times I'll see people do that, and I'll actually work a lot of people and will grow their business this way, right? Obviously you can't grow as fast sometimes, depending on how much revenue is coming in. But, you know, again, you know, depending on, again, I wish I had the list. I see the different businesses and see where all our startups, but, you know, sometimes I see people, you know, that don't start their business because they're not really big yet. You know, like I don't know, the PR firm or 3D printing or e-commerce. Like this one really wants to add a computer repair person, and they wanted a storefront. And I'm like, and they weren't doing anything. I'm like, well, can you fix computers now? He goes, yeah. I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? Right? You know, like set up your LLC, do everything else they're doing about it, and start going to get customers. Right? You don't, and then use revenue save the revenue, and then maybe eventually you'll have the revenue to go buy a space or rent the space. But that's kind of, I like growth from revenue. But yes, personal savings, family and friends. You can borrow. A big misconception for people is that they're just going to borrow money. I will tell you from experience, working with a lot of people, that if you're going to go to a bank, most banks want to see you show them at least 2 years of financials. And if you don't have that, getting money can be very difficult or almost impossible. And if anything, at a very high, extremely very expensive interest rate. But it is an option as well. And also, which is not recommended, you can use credit cards. Okay. So those are all sources of funding as well. Okay.
Okay.
So, what are your options? Speaking here. Okay, perfect. So you're thinking of going into business. Someone said here earlier, right? I have an idea. Should I be here? Well, here's another spot that's perfect for you. The other businesses, I didn't catch if you're already in business or looking to start that business, but this all applies to a lot of people, right? There are multiple ways you can get into business. One of them is you can start from scratch. You can buy someone else's business. You can buy a franchise. You can be a home-based business, an online business, or a nonprofit. Now, obviously, some can overlap, right? Home-based and online can overlap. Home-based and online can overlap with that and overlap with any of these, okay? But these are all ways that you can be in business, okay? And we're going to talk about now the pros and cons of all of those. So what are the advantages of starting a business from scratch? Well, one is you're not hampered by anybody else's reputation. It's your baby, right? It's your vision, it's your idea, it's your puppy, right? And you can do anything you want. One of the disadvantages is, right, you got no customers. No one knows you, right? You have no reputation. It is no track record. I can tell you when I first wanted to move to Charlotte and was looking for a firm to associate with, not only did I have no customer base, I didn't know anybody down here, right? And some firms were hesitant to hire me for that reason. But I convinced someone that, hey, I built businesses from scratch before, I can do it again. And I'm a talker, I'm very sociable, don't worry about it. They hired me and here I am 25 years later. But that being said, it's a challenge and not easy, okay? You also can buy an existing business. There are tons of people out there. I actually know somebody, 2 different people, older, one's an accountant, one's a landscaper, solopreneurs that eventually going to retire. And I keep telling them, you need to find someone to sell this to, right? Why are you just going to stop, right? And they say, oh, I know, but how am I going to do it? Yada, yada, yada. You can, and one of them has a person on his crew. I said, anybody on your crew might want to buy this, right? There are lots of people that want to sell their businesses. They're looking to retire, they're looking to move, maybe looking for a partner, what have you. The advantages is you're buying established clientele. People know the business if it's successful. You can view their financials, which can make it easier for financing if you need financing. You can look at the track record. Now, some of those advantages could be a disadvantage, right? It can be a known entity with a bad reputation, right? There could be hidden costs. And also, there's no guarantee of success. If you do buy someone's business, I always talk about having a good transition plan, right? You want to make sure the owner, they're not working for you, but there's some transition from them to you, right? So if you're a chiropractor and you buy someone's business, well, they love the other chiropractor, but they might not know or love you, right? So you want to be there and have it eased into it, right? When this landscaper transitions to another landscaping, if he sells it, it'd be easier for him to transition to a landscaper who his customers know or he's introduced them to than meeting that person cold and there's no loyalty to that new person, right? So again, those are pros and cons of buying an existing business. You also can buy a franchise. right? There is a franchise for every single business that exists, right? There are also companies out there that are consultants that will match you with a franchise. One of them I know is called FranNet. And they are consultants. They do not charge you. They only get paid if you ever buy a franchise, and they get paid from the franchises. But there's a franchise for any business. And if you, what are the advantages? Well, if you buy a franchise, they have supposedly, right? If you get a good franchise, a model of success. They usually provide support and training. They have access. There's ongoing, and sometimes it's easier to get financing either from a bank or from the franchise itself. Disadvantages is that you could pay ongoing fees. You have limited to territories, and if the franchise has a problem, you have a problem. Okay, but that is an option as well. You also can have a home-based business, which obviously doves into all the other ones as well. If your home-based business is convenient because you're working from home, it has less overhead, flexible. Tax advantages, I would say with caution. It's hard to spell with these pens, right? But with caution. Because if you don't do it right, you can get in a lot of trouble from the IRS, but that's a possibility. And then people can hire you from anywhere around the world. Disadvantages, and this applies to any of these things as well. Be careful of your HOA. I've had people that were doing businesses, landscaping company, out of their house, and they were in the neighborhood, and they got a letter from the HOA. You can't do that, right? And so, he had to move all of his trucks and equipment off to he's renting a place, and fortunately he was able to afford it. But again, you be careful of HOA restrictions, and obviously there's family distractions as well. And then you also have online businesses, people like e-commerce, one person today. That's right. So obviously could be low startup costs. People are more comfortable with buying online over these years. It used to be more difficult with that in the beginning. You can sell anywhere. It's open 24 hours. There's anywhere, again, flexibility. Disadvantages, anybody can do it. Customers are higher, well, my chat box is in the way. Customers are higher expectations, less tolerant for problems. I don't know. I think that applies everywhere now. Go to brick and mortar, people can be just as difficult there. But no personal contact. I know I'm one of those guys, I gotta feel in touch when I buy something. But again, more people are used to buying things online. But one thing I will say is that's disadvantage is that conversion. I would add that here is conversion to customers has got way more expensive than it was in the beginning, where you can put something on Facebook and everybody saw it. Now you can post on Facebook, no one sees it unless you pay. And in the beginning, you paid a little bit. Now you got to pay a lot more, right? So those are pros and cons. And then if you're going to do a nonprofit, I don't know if anybody here was going to do a nonprofit. If so, when you reach out to SCORE, if you want for the one-on-one mentoring, let them know there are some SCORE mentors that their backgrounds are nonprofit. So they'd be a good mentor for you. Obviously, advantage, they qualify for grants. I also would add that as a challenge because getting grants is very difficult. But that is an advantage of a nonprofit. You also are protected from liability, and you can pay salaries, and you can actually get a good salary, right? If the nonprofit is doing very, very well, and it's and it grows and gets big, well, you're doing a lot of work. I've seen people make decent salaries at nonprofits. Disadvantage of a nonprofit, well, I would say the biggest one that I see, that I experience from the outside looking in, is most people that are nonprofits tend to say to me, Keith, I don't do as much as I thought I was going to be doing, which is my passion of whatever the nonprofit is, serving these people. It ends up being all their time is spent raising money. And so that's a huge challenge. And a bigger challenge, as the economy gets more difficult or tighter, or, in this inflationary society right now. So just making you aware of that. Okay. Any questions so far? We doing good? And this is where everybody's like this, because we're doing well. Awesome. So what are the components now of owning a business, right? So, I'm going to get back to the people that had an idea yet, right? Or even people in business. I see a lot of people, and this happens. I know I had my chiropractor on here earlier, like, right? This next comment, I think, happens more so, I guess, with just professionals, like whereas I see a lot of doctors, chiropractors, massage people, even, but I see this happen in restaurants a lot too, where people work at a business, in a business, and they want to be an owner. And so they go start their own practice or their own restaurant and don't realize all the other stuff that you're doing. Now, ironically, as I say chiropractor, my chiropractor, when I met him, had his own practice for years. And then at one point he was like, Keith, I'm done, man. I can't, all I'm doing is insurance and this and payroll. And I just want to see patients. And he sold the practice and worked in a practice. Now, 5 or 6 years later, Keith, I loved working there. All I did was patients, but you know what? I'm giving too much money and I want to go back. And he went and started his practice again. And it's been 5 years since, and he's loving it. So, it's just, sometimes it goes both ways as well. But here's all the hats that you're wearing. So you are the boss. You're the owner. You are also doing all the admin. You are doing all the accounting, all the human resources, all the sales and marketing, customer service, right? Product fulfillment, dealing with technology. And if you own a space and have a space, you're dealing with the facilities, right? So you're doing all of this. And I will tell you, and I will say it again, if you do jokingly nothing and are really good here, you jokingly can actually get away with not doing anything else. And I've had clients walk in that haven't done a business plan, haven't done cash flow planning, but they walked in and he was making $500,000 a year, but they were just like all over the place. Now, granted, he was doing industrial boiler repair, which is huge boilers at hospitals and breweries. He had very little competition. So he was able to just crank sales and all this revenue come in, and him and his spouse were just going out and doing jobs. And then eventually came to see me to try to get their head on and organize it all. But at the end of the day, if you need revenue is your number one almost job as this new owner in your business. Okay. But on top of it, then, yes, who's doing your accounting, your bookkeeping, your marketing, customer service, all this stuff. Okay. You can outsource some of it eventually. And this ties back into cash flow planning, right? Can you afford, like on the accounting side, if you're an S Corp or a C Corp, someone needs to be doing your bookkeeping. Are you going to do it or are you going to outsource it, right? You could even have someone do your bookkeeping as an LLC. But that being said, can you afford to do that? Well, that's how you put it into your cash flow, right? How much revenue to afford all these things, right? If you're not good in sales, getting back to your skill set. I actually had a client. Now, she had resources, a decent amount of resources. They came from corporate America. Husband was still working, had a lot of savings, a lot of money. They started a business, a big amount of capital. And in operating, when I met with her, she was struggling. She had very little, no sales. And after talking to her, she had no sales background. She had no sales skills. Very smart, very intelligent. And so that was the mentoring, the coaching is teaching her sales skills, how to, network, all the built back to your business plan. How are you going to sell and market? Write it down. What are you going to be doing? And that's what we did. We did all the activities you need to be doing. And then part of that was, do you have the ability to outsource some of the sales, right? Co-sign some of this product, partner with people, maybe hire a salesperson on a commission basis, maybe hire a salesperson on a revenue share basis. So anyway, I'll go off on, hopefully all this conversation helps. These are all the hats again that you're going to be wearing. I talk about marketing. So back to part of your business plan, writing all this down. So when you go meet with your mentor or somebody else, when I talk business plan, as I keep saying all these things, and again, please, this is my little bias, but over the years, the world, I think, has caught up to me. Please do not write a book. To me, the bigger the plan, the more I have to read, the less I'm getting out of it, right? People stop reading. I even learned this over the years when I write emails, right? Even with someone at my firm, I had we kind of taught him, and with my firm, when you write emails, stop doing it this way. Do one-line paragraphs, bullet points, smaller, because people don't read half the stuff you're writing, and they're missing it, a lot of it, right? So in your business plan, short, sweet, and simple. To me, 1 page on each, right? We talked about cash flow planning earlier. Now we're talking about sales and marketing, right? So how are you going to market, right? Who are you going to market to? Who are your customers, right? Write it down, bullet point it. I'm going to market to these people. Here's my customers, and here's how I'm going to do it. Here's the ways I'm going to do networking through the chamber, networking through here, emails, events, strategic partners, and here's who they're going to be. So again, that's what you have to be doing. This is the marketing side. So again, I'm speaking. You can read right here. Also, you see it, strategies. Your products won't sell yourself, and your service won't sell itself. How you get a brand, right? Which is all part of your sales and marketing. I could tell you my firm, our branding is family and community, education. It gets to the point where people will ask me, Keith, when's your next education event, right? So, and they know what we're about. We don't stock pick or market time. So all of our messaging is all coordinated. It's all part of everything that we do, and that's branding, okay? Which is all part of your sales and marketing as well. Yeah, talking about sales, who are your customers, where are you going to find them, how are you going to connect with them, how are you going to contact them, how are you going to engage with them, right? Right, deceased pet care, how you get engaged with people, right? So look at my neighbor. Obviously, if they wanted another way to dispose of their pet, they would have called somebody, but what are you going to do to get that person to think of you, right? Are you going to partner with vets or animal hospitals or humane societies or, promoting through social media? So how are you going to find your prospects? And then when you get them, how are you going to present to them, right? You got to create all this stuff. If you're in a business where you're making bids, how are you going to prepare the bids? How are you going to close? How are you going to close that sale, right? What's your ask, I guess, per se? Is it a, sign here, or, if it's come to my event, or, sometimes closing for me is, that I get someone to register or request the awareness guide, right? And then how you're going to process your orders. What is all your processes for this and how you're going to do all this? Write it down. It's part of your business plan. And it's part of how you should be operating. All right, I see another. What are some business models that are great for creating passive income? So I had a question in the chat. What are some business models great for creating passive income? Well, first, obviously, what I would say for anything, good Google search for that is a great question. I would do a Google search for that. This is my own outside looking in, passive income. I know people will do rental properties for passive income. I know I do financial services, right? I went fee-based for a reason. I get fees. I don't do any commissions. So it's passive income. I don't do anything. And I still have my income revenue coming in. I know what spurred me to want to get into that mindset of passive income was growing up, a friend of my dad's and a friend of mine did property and casualty insurance, right? Homeowners, in auto and different, and he always would tell me, when Keith, your dad renews, I get a renewal, right? So I get renewals all the time. That to me is passive income. So that's what I think of with passive income. I know some people look at passive income of buying dividend stocks, stuff like that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are what I think of. But to me, if you search that on the internet, you probably find some more ideas. And also getting back to franchises, there might be a franchise that also does something with passive income. Just also be careful that it's not multi-level marketing or all those other things, which not to be negative, but I'm not a big fan of multi-level marketing. To me, I think I never liked my revenue is based on me getting other people. I want my revenue based on if I'm selling a service or product. Okay. So hopefully I answer your question for you. So, again, we talked about this already. Do you have the skills to do whatever your business is? And if not, how can you maybe improve those skills? Right. Or partner with somebody who has those skills. All right. Or outsource that skill set to somebody. Like I said, one of the things is I can't do accounting, or I don't want to do accounting, so I outsource that. Okay. But that's how you can outsource, and if you don't have the skills, you can kind of get them. All right. Another question. Oh, thanks for input. Perfect. Awesome. Other critical factors, obviously, do you have an itch? That is obviously huge. Who is your competition? What is your distribution? What is your merchandising? I think these two, they're all important, but this comes into really, I think, more so if you have a tangible product, right? But I guess you can argue I distribute a service. But these are all critical factors. What I will say, everybody has this, we all have competition. Even getting back to the niche, if you have a niche, that's awesome. We're going to talk about later, how do you differentiate yourself from competition? You want to do that if you have an itch, obviously. But don't feel bad if you don't have an itch. At the end of the day, like I said earlier, there's 1,000 people doing the same thing most of us are doing. It all comes down to how well do you implement? How well are you making calls? Are you doing the marketing? Are you out there talking to people? Are you doing everything we're talking about? That's really the divider between who's successful and who's not. Right? How do you price your product? I'm gonna do it here, aren't I? Right? So getting back to that. This is that spreadsheet I was talking about earlier. To give you guys a verbal example. Right? So right down here, that's what we were doing. I could now just change all these numbers to help her figure out what to charge. Right? I once had another person said, am I charging enough or too much or not enough? I'm like, well, back to what can you afford, right? So at the end of the day, if you're struggling getting customers, maybe you're not charging too much, but can you afford right now to charge a little bit less? Right? That goes to the cash flow planning. So you know, again, I go on and on about cash flow planning and charging, but back to pricing, that's how also you can figure out what you should be charging, your costs, right? You know, and how much you should be charging. Should you raise your price, or do you need to make your numbers? Okay. These are all critical factors to figure out what you're going to cost, your competition is, and so forth. So you want to size up your competition, of course. What are your differences if you can't communicate that in your marketing and sales or your one-on-ones, right? Professionally, I can easily pick apart my competition professionally. Okay. There's nothing wrong with pointing out the differences between you and other people. Understand what they're charging in services. Just understand your competition. What this is all talking about right here. So are we good on that part? Because I could spend an hour there as well as well. But this is an overview of everything. Remember, if you did 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your own, you're going to spend way more time going into the details of every single section I've talked about today. And if you don't go through 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your own, you will do all these things on your own. You need to be, and or with your mentor or somebody else or yourself. Okay. So how do you make it legal? All right, cool. I keep checking my time because we know we're gonna be done by 12:15, and I want to make sure the library has their time. So we're still on track. So perfect. Okay, so I don't know how many questions I got on making it legal. What's I got in here? Oh, you're welcome, Marina. Okay, so most common is here, here, and here as I see most common. Okay. The most common is sole proprietor because, hey, Keith, I'm starting a business. I'm going out and making sales. Most people just go out and start, right? Then, or they'll, yeah, a lot of people will start here. Just for me to keep it simple, because again, I can spend an hour on this page. Okay, let me back up 1 second. My disclaimer. I am not an accountant. I am not an attorney. Nothing I say during this discussion should be taken as legal advice or tax advice. Okay. But as I say that, I joke around that I do this stuff in real life because I do. So I do it for myself personally. I was a sole proprietor, and then I went right to an S many years ago. I have paid clients that I show them a lot of time why you want to go from an LLC to an S. And then I have a lot of score clients. I talk about this, right? So I do this all the time. And then with my clients, my business clients, when I have the conversation why you want to go from an LLC to an S, we have the conversation, I show them, then I say, all right, now we need to bring in your accountant, or hey, talk to your accountant about this as well, or I talk to the accountant, right? And then I say, hey, we need to go to the attorney, because I even had an engineer that started a company, has been growing, did all this stuff with them. And then, yeah, you need to go to an attorney at this point. And even in their world, there was a certain LLC that was for engineers, and then now we're still an S. So it's kind of, that's where you need to bring those professionals as well. Okay. But I have a question, and I'm going to get back into this in a second. Okay, Christy, go ahead.
Yes, so I had a business prior by myself when I was young, well, 30, and I was a sole proprietorship because I had no risk. Can you hear me?
I hear you barely. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Okay, so I had no risk, so I did well with that. Now I have a husband, we have a home, we have vehicles, everything, and this is the new business. And so I did all of that like on a wing. Like I didn't really, I had a plan, a thought, but it wasn't like a business plan. And I just did it. It was my own work. So this is where I'm terrified. Like I've got to do, I'm assuming at least an LLC, that's what will protect us, right?
Yes, so let me continue this conversation. Okay, and I think I'm gonna answer your question. All right. So what I heard you say, your question was about liability, correct? Okay, so that's what I was getting at. So that's what I went back. I was about to get into that before I stepped backwards and gave you my disclaimer. Okay. So again, that's why I'm going to answer it, but that's why I say I'm not an accountant. But generally, when I had this conversation with people, that's exactly why we're talking about it, right? So the biggest difference between a sole proprietor to an LLC is going to be that liability protection. Okay. So if you're a sole proprietor and you're operating and you make a mistake and someone sues you, they can get your house, your 401k, whatever, all that stuff. If you're an LLC and you make that mistake, or you don't make a mistake, you've got a store and the light falls on their head and they sue you, right? I mean, that could bury you. So if you're open up a storefront and you're a proprietor and you get sued because someone slips, everything is exposed. If you're an LLC, it's not. Only the business assets are. Okay. So to answer your question, yes, an LLC would protect your personal assets. Okay. Now, here's a caveat. You have to do it correctly. What I mean by that is when you have the LLC, just make sure you keep everything separate, right? And now that gets back down to if you want to hire a bookkeeper or just do it all manually yourself, or not. You don't have to use QuickBooks, right? But if you have business revenue going into a individual account, not the business account, you lose your LLC liability. So when you're an LLC, you take your document that you get and you go to the bank, and you give them the document and they give you a corporate account, a different account. And then you have all your money, business money now flowing through that, right? And then you get a company credit card. But if you start using personal credit cards and personal accounts, you're going to lose your LLC liability. All right. Now, what if you say, but Keith, I want to take $10,000 out of the business, out of my personal for the business? That's okay. And then you just transfer the money from the sole proprietor into the business account and then use the money from there to do stuff. And then you won't lose the LLC. And then you bookkeep it as a loan. And then you won't, and then as you use that money, you won't lose that protection. But that's where you kind of work with the attorneys at that stage. Then make sure you don't, when you set it up, that you keep everything separate and don't start commingling to lose that liability protection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then, without getting into the details, the next big step that I do commonly is from here to here. Okay. And the biggest reason is tax planning. Right? That's the biggest reason you go from here, LLC, to down to here. Okay. That's keeping it simple. There's more things you can do here that you can't do in an LLC that would be tax efficient or tax just different. There's just different things you can do. Okay. Accountants have a different, generally, on average, I see accountants say when you're making about 80,000 profit, it makes sense to make this transition from an LLC to an S, right? I've done numbers with people where the income was lower and it made sense because they were married and it was on top of the spouse's income and other reasons. But those, again, are questions you would have with your financial advisor and your accountants and so forth. But that's my corporate structure discussion now. And I'm going to move on unless anybody has any questions about that part. And I see I got something in the chat. Darn it. Am I on mute? Can you all hear me? Some people in chat say, yes, you can hear me. LaQuisha said she can't.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
And you can mute me too if you want.
Yeah, I know what the last person said, but I'm not sure why, LaQuisha. Okay. But you all can hear me, right? couple more people say yes. Right. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. All right. Oh, there you go. I bet. Keep it simple, right? I just had that conversation. You know, again, as a business owner, please make sure you comply to all government rules and regulations. You know, I don't know what, you know, there's all different, right? In my industry, I had different regulations. So just make sure you comply with federal and state regulations, laws, and rules. And even, you know, the e-commerce person, you might even have right down here, you might even have sales tax. Right? Well, I say that, other people do. Like, I don't know about the PR, like I have back to the boiler guy. Sometimes even other clients, who's the other one that does business South Carolina? Or what do they sell? Oh yeah, my plumbing company. Sometimes during the financials, I see sales tax. They have to sometimes charge clients sales tax, and then withhold money for when they get the money, and then they got to send it to the IRS. So just make sure you're complying with all regulations. You know, your accountants, your attorneys, sometimes your advisors, and then you as an owner are responsible for knowing it all. Okay. Another way, you know, getting back to all these conversations, I jump around. Everybody as a business owner, this also back to save the sales and marketing. Peer groups. Get involved in peer groups, right? Peer groups of industry like, right? So back to this slide right here, government regulations. If you're in a peer group of industry like people, you can ask them, right? You know, what do I need to be doing? Like I know, you know, I have regulations. A lot of times in our peer groups, people always ask us, you know, what errors and emissions insurance should I have, right? And someone chimes in, you know, this company has a great errors and emissions policy, or, you know, oh, if you're this, you need to register that with the state. So peer groups to comply with your industry, and also peer groups for sales and marketing. What are they doing for sales and marketing? But also peer groups of business owners, right? I'm in a peer group still. My whole life. I meet twice a week with a business group in Cabarrus County. One reason and purpose of these peer groups is we give each other referrals. And we help each other out, but we also talk about business, right? One month meeting, we raise our hand and we do topics, and we talk about sales and marketing, or hiring, firing, you know, or what are you dealing with, or what we talk about business. So peer groups, networking, help with all these things we're talking about today, and also sales and marketing, it helps me get customers and clients as well. Okay, I know I'm jumping around a lot here, but again, this all ties together. Cash flow wise, and also setting up your business, right? That's the spot we're at now, is all the stuff you need to be thinking about as a business owner. But again, it also ties into cash flow. But again, property insurance, liability insurance, getting back to compliance. I know in my business, I have to have liability insurance. If it wasn't required, you should still get liability insurance. You're going to need insurance on your vehicles, right? Some of you, water and mold restoration. You probably have trucks, right? So you need to insure those trucks. If you have employees, you need workers' comp. How you gonna handle health insurance, right? So if you're single and you're a business owner, are you going to go on the individual health insurance market? Are you running the exchange? If you're married, on your spouse's plan. You have employees, are you going to do a company plan? Do you have life insurance, right? If you're in business and you die, what happens to that business? Do you need to replace income to your family? If it's in a business and you have a key employee and the key employee dies, what happens to your revenue? So you can even buy life insurance from that employee to replace that lost revenue. So there's all kinds of insurance considerations as well in a business. And again, I can spend an hour on this slide alone. Talk about business interruption insurance. I have a client that owns they are a optician that owns their own practice, and there's, I think now 6 eye doctors in there. So we have several different insurances in there. One of them is business interruption. Another one is business overhead. So if anybody in that business gets disabled, and these doctors get disabled, they will have a loss of revenue. And so they have insurance that will place that revenue up to a certain amount of time. And also insurance that will cover some of the business overhead while they're replacing that. And then on top of it, there's insurance and plans in place in that practice. If either one of those opticians gets disabled and they're disabled for an extended period of time, money will flow into that business to buy that partner out, right? Because how long, because that overhead of replacement revenue only lasts a certain amount of time. And so there's also life insurance on all the partners that if any one of these optometrists died, like even in my business, if I die, there's life insurance on me, so Leo can buy out my wife, right? So there's all kinds of stuff you need to be thinking about. That gets down the road as you grow and get bigger, that person is expanding. If you successfully have those issues. But these are all insurance considerations you need to be thinking about in your business. Even me, right here, I'm an S Corp. So now I have a company car, right? The company car, didn't spell that really right. And thank goodness I had a good person on my team. I wasn't even thinking about it. My P&C person said, Keith, you got to take your car off your individual policy. You got to get a commercial policy for your car. Okay. So again, I'm babbling here on this. There's all the stuff you need to be thinking about.
There's a way that you can get a commercial policy for your car if you use your car as a business.
You go back to that, please, Keith. Oh, thank you.
Okay. All right. I know I talk a lot. I'm up in a tangent. If you are a sole proprietor or an LLC, no company car. Okay. But what I was saying is now I'm going to answer this question. This is where you get your P&C people. If you're using a car on an LLC, you probably do need a commercial policy. If you know what, now I'm saying it out loud. If you're using a car here as a sole, you probably need a commercial policy or a rider on your policy for that car. So yes, ask your auto person, do you have the correct insurance? Like if you're doing Uber, yeah, and you don't tell your property and casualty person, and you're a sole LLC and crash that car, you're probably in a pickle. Okay. What I said as an S Corp, my company owns my car now. My car is owned under the S Corp. So whether or not, since I was an S, again, I'm up on a tangent here. When my company bought my car, all I know is I had all 3 cars on one policy when I was a sole proprietor. Right? When I was an S, he took the company off and put it on a separate policy. But you got to be talking about it here also as a sole and LLC to make sure you have the correct insurance on your cars. All right. That's why I probably confused you with my language here. The difference was here, my company can own the car, which is just quite a different things, different than a LLC for that reason. Okay. That answer your question there? Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's LLC, at least my personal, that's an accountant question. Generally what you do there is you're just going to deduct miles, which is pretty lucrative. So just track your miles. So if you're an LLC or a sole proprietor, yes, back to correcting myself, you want to make sure you have the correct insurance on your car if you're using it for business. Okay. And if you're using it for business, what I'm saying now is you want to track your miles. And that's going to get your for them. That's how LLCs usually do it when they're using a company, when using a car for their business. It's a deductible. Okay. Same with a sole. Right. All right. So I got another question. All right. All right, Vera, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah, earlier you said you have your email on the chat. I'm trying to look for in case I want to reach out. I couldn't see it.
All right, I will put it in there again. And then the other, here, I'll put it in here again.
So should I see it under the chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat again.
Can you make sure you're sending it to everyone and that you're not sending it maybe to someone else?
Oh, thank you. It says host and panelists. Thank you. Yeah, I love teamwork. Everyone, thank you. All right. Okay, was that, okay, so that was that one question. Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm trying to get it back up. I just lost my chat screen. Why did this lose? All right. Oh, there she is. Trying to raise your hand, Pamela. I just lost it. Usually, I apologize, everybody. I usually have a class manager. There he is. There it is. There it is. There it is. All right. Go ahead, Pamela.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, would these handouts be provided to us by email? Because I've been taking notes.
Yes, they are. Score will email them afterwards. Great question.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. All right. Awesome. I think I got all my questions. Anybody else? Oh, Pamela, put your hand down if you don't mind. Thank you. So a lot of what, again, now we're getting, I'm wrapping up soon here to get to the library part. Awesome. I talked about the business plan throughout the entire meeting, right? Simple, short, and sweet. It's the foundation, it's a powerful tool, and to communicate your ideas and the actuals, all right? Right, I talked about it. You want to have a table of contents, a quick summary, what your business is, financials, and then the supporting data. But in there is going to be everything we talked about today, all the different, the marketing, sales, who your competition is. That's all the other stuff. We talked about all throughout the meeting, building your team, bankers, lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, a good PNC person. I like brokers, someone that's not married to a company. I mean, your Allstates, Nationwides, they're great. But the Trade Signer Insurance Agency, McMillan Insurance, all those, a lot of people like me that have been in business for a very long time, that are brokers, that are not married to one company. So I like those, but you want to have a good insurance person that you can ask all these questions to, and get yourself a SCORE mentor as well for one-on-one mentoring. Just go to the same SCORE website and request a mentor, and they'll connect with someone like myself. And then I mentioned earlier, if you do add a financial advisor, they are a good person on your team. But what I would say is try to find someone that is more, not me, but set up like me, where they're independent, fee-based, where that if you work with them, there's like you hired your accountant, you just pay them fees. kind of stuff. And they're not a commission-based person selling insurance or annuities, or not that they're bad people, but if you want to partner, there are people out there that are advisors that can do that part of work. When someone asked me earlier, or help you with this stuff, coordinating with accountants and attorneys and doing that kind of work we're talking about with you. Okay, they do exist. All right. So you're going to get an assessment. Just be honest with yourself. So after this meeting, as part of the handout, you're going to just score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where you think you are. And then when you're working with your mentor or somebody else, you'll have an idea of the areas you need to be working on. And then your homework is start your plan, start working on all the stuff we talked about today. Next is get yourself a mentor. I'm flying through these things because we talked about it all throughout the presentation. I want the library to have a good amount of time to do her thing. So that, this is the other sections you can do yourself through the SCORE website, or work on the details of all the stuff we talked about today. Right? Here's another great resource. This is National SCORE's website. The SCORE Charlotte, National SCORE have a lot of great education videos, a lot of more webinars you can do, and even templates you can use for a lot of stuff and other stuff we haven't even touched on. All right. So I am now going to turn it over to our library person. Oh, go ahead, Pamela. Are you still on? Oh, I think I had a question. All right, awesome. So go ahead, Stephanie. Thank you, Christy, for that feedback. I appreciate it.
Hi. Oh, thanks, Keith.
You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Lucas. I work with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. I'm going to share a few slides with you. Oh, you know what? Keith, could I get screen sharing permissions from you? So I want to encourage you, even if you're not in Mecklenburg County, a lot of the resources that I'm going to show you today are available through most public library systems around North Carolina. If you don't have a library card already, get one. It is a great resource for starting your small business. We have a huge array of digital tools. Oh, and let me pull up my slides that you can use at the library. What I'm going to show you today is, let's see. Everything I'm going to show you today is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in the comfort of your own home. You just need an internet connection and a library card. Okay, so okay, so SCORE, the emphasis with SCORE in this program is how important it is to have a plan. You need a business plan. The library is a great resource for working on your business plan. We have resources.
Well,
Yes.
I'm on a Zoom meeting.
Oh, sorry. We have resources that give you data on your industry, your competitors, the suppliers you need, the customers you need to find.
Meet you down here.
We have
Please
tools.
don't bring that nasty stained dress with you.
Oh, we have tools that will help you get ready to put together your marketing campaign, everything you need. Okay. So we're just going to use an example business to show you some of these tools. Okay, so for this scenario, we are going to pretend that your plan is to open a pet supply store, okay? The first resource that I want to recommend to you is called ABI Inform. Okay, ABI stands for Abstracted Business Information. So this database is going to provide you with industry profiles. It's going to show you business trends. It's going to give you corporate strategies, show you the competitive landscapes that are out there, so much more. So if you want to start with ABI and form, you will get a great picture of what the industry that you are looking to go into, what that looks like right now. So for our example, starting a pet supply business, when we look at this, the first thing we learn is that 70% of households in the United States have at least one pet. Okay, so we might take this information and conclude that yes, starting a pet supply store is perhaps a viable move. Okay, so once we have taken an overview of the industry that we're looking to go into, what we can do now is kind of look at our local landscape. So for that, I want to show you Data Axle. If anybody's familiar with Reference USA, this tool used to be called Reference USA. This is a great tool for assessing your competition. Okay, so you can search companies by their standard industrial classification codes, if you know those codes. If you don't, no problem. You can use keyword searches. So you can do keyword searches for the business or industry that you are going into. And you can also do your search geographically. Okay, so in this screen capture you're seeing here, we have done a search of pet supply businesses that are located in Mecklenburg County. Okay, so from this, we've learned that there are 269 businesses in Mecklenburg County that are already selling pet supplies. Okay, we can also use Data Axle to look at a map of the businesses that are already working in our industry. So we can see a map of our competitors. Okay, this can be a really helpful tool, obviously. Okay, so Data Axle, again, is going to show us our competition. You can also actually use Data Axle if you're in need of suppliers.
It's really nice. It really is.
It's a great way to
It's quiet and
research
clean.
competitors
It's
and suppliers, I'm sorry. Okay, so next, I want to show you Simply Analytics. Okay, Simply Analytics, another fabulous tool. This is a great tool for finding your customers. Okay, so this is a great demographic tool. It's going to allow us to research geographical areas, and you'll see you can search by zip code. Within Mecklenburg County, we can look at age groups, we can look at income levels, we can look at how much money people spend on various industries. Okay, so for this, this heat map is showing us where the people live who spend money, the most money on their pets. Okay, so the darker red areas are going to be where people spend the most amount of money on their pets. The lighter areas are where there's less spent. And so what we're looking at is where these people live. So not necessarily where they spend the money, but where they live. Okay, so we can also use Simply Analytics to see that in 2022, Mecklenburg County residents spent nearly $500 million on pets. Okay, so again, just a great way to assess, is there a customer base for the business that I'm looking to go into? Okay. Okay, so you've got all this data. Okay, you've learned all these things about your industry. How are you going to use it to grow your business? This I love to show people because you can actually compare the heat map that you produce in Simply Analytics to that map of competitors that you see in Data Axle. And you can try to find areas where there are lots of paying customers, but not necessarily a lot of competition. Okay, so, and this is a great tool, even if you're not looking into a brick and mortar business. Okay, even if you're not looking for maybe a place to set up your business, it can help you look at areas where you need to advertise. What are the areas that you really need to market to? What are the businesses that you maybe want to advertise your business to? So great tools, even if you are looking at e-commerce or that kind of thing. Okay. Simply Analytics also just has so much great demographic data that you can use to, again, determine how are you going to reach out to your customers. So you can use this to decide, okay, based on age, because we know that different age groups are engaged in with different media, right? So maybe our older folks are on Facebook, younger folks on Instagram. So you can use a lot of this demographic data to really help you determine how you're going to reach out to your customers. All right. And so once you've decided, okay, you've decided how you're going to reach your audience, who you're reaching out to. Now you need to decide, okay, what exactly are you going to say when you're trying to reach these customers? So a great tool for that, I want to recommend this database called Masterfile. Okay, so with Masterfile, you can look up industry-related articles. You can pull quotes from experts in your industry that you can incorporate into your advertisements. So it's a really good way to keep up with all of the current information that's out there in your industry. You also want to make sure that you're keeping up on your local business news. Okay, so we've got free access to the Charlotte Business Journal and to the Charlotte Observer to make sure that you know everything that's going on in your local world where your customers are. We also have some great tools for learning all those new skills that you're going to need as an entrepreneur. You know, Keith talked about you have a lot of hats to wear as a small business owner. You need accounting skills, human resources skills, management skills, marketing skills. You can take online classes and all of those things for free with your library card. We have free access to LinkedIn Learning. We have free access to Universal Class. These are two great tools, thousands of courses from industry experts, and you take them online at your own pace. So lots of training that you can do at your convenience from home for free. Okay, and then this is a tool called Gale Directory Library. This is a great tool for kind of learning what are the professional organizations that maybe you either want to become a part of, that you want to reach out to. SCORE has a wealth of mentors, but maybe you want to get specific in your industry and try to reach out and find a mentor in your particular field. So this is a great tool for getting to know those organizations. And we have a lot of classes. You can check out our online calendar at our website, look at the business development courses that are out there and available, as well as hosting SCORE programs. We also have one-on-ones you can book with a business librarian to work specifically on the research that you need. So check out our online calendar. And finally, we are still 20 brick and mortar library locations. So you're welcome to come and browse our collections. We also have ebooks, digital audiobooks, videos that you might use to work on your research. But again, so visit your local library. And if you have any questions, this is the number you can call, 704-416-0101. Check out our website. And I just encourage you, again, even if you are not in Mecklenburg County, check out what's available through your local library. Your property taxes are funding the library, whether you use it or not. So why not make use? Just check out and see what maybe it could do for you. Okay. And good luck to everyone. customize.
Okay. Again, I was on mute. I'm here, I'm talking. I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. I was just answering, Myrna, I think you can hear me. I was just answering the chat, your question about me offering my benefits employees. Yeah, I mean, it's me, my wife, and another person. So when I was at the bigger firm, when I went independent and I had me and that partner, we had 10. The answer is yes. We had a 401k health. We did health insurance and benefits and stuff. Me and my wife, and then Leo, we don't do it because me and my wife have health insurance, and then Leo, we just pay him way more. He gets his revenue share is just a lot more than it would be to compensate him for the fact that we're not providing him benefits. So, if that makes any sense. So that's how we do it. So, and technically he's 1099, so that's another reason. So, but thank you all. This was great. I hope you all enjoyed it. And look, we got done 5 minutes early. So, if you have any other questions, if not, I'll let you all get back the rest of your day. You'll go get yourself a mentor, and we wish everybody the best of luck in all the businesses and all their endeavors. And we thank you all for participating today. We appreciate it.
Stephanie, thank you so much as well. Will we also get your slide presentation?
Oh, well, I don't have all of your contact information. I guess I could share it with SCORE and see if they could send it out.
Keith, when you send it out, is it possible you can send that one as well?
Oh, I don't send anything. That's
Oh, okay. Okay, I will send it to the SCORE administrator, I guess, and hopefully it will get sent to you all. Or actually, you know what? Here's what I'll do. I'm going to type my email in the chat and just email me if you want it, and I will just send it to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, it's just slucas@cmlibrary.org.
Is that it? You all good? All right. Well, thank you again, everybody.
Okay.
Have a great day. We'll talk to you all soon. I'll talk
Thank
to you.
you.
Best of luck. Bye.